Hello everyone, and thank you for joining me today on a new episode of the series of video on Microsoft and Azure security services. On this episode, our topic is centered on Microsoft Priva. But before I go deeper, let's look at a scenario that creates a business problem that this solution can solve. Your organization receives an email. A customer in Germany is exercising their right under GDP to know what personal data you hold on them, where it is stored, and to request that it be deleted. You have 30 days to respond. Your privacy team starts manually searching Exchange, SharePoint, OneDrive, Teams, CRM record, some support ticket databases, marketing list for any data associated with this individual. It takes 3 weeks. The response is incomplete. Your legal team review it, find gaps, and send it back. You missed the deadline. You are now in regulatory breach territory. That is a subject right request, a DSAR. And in 2026, every organization subject to GDPR, CCPA, LGPD, or any of the dozens other privacy regulations enforced globally face them. Most organizations handle them manually. Microsoft Priva exists to automate them. Welcome to SecureTechWithJKA. I'm John Kayode Abusi, and this is another episode, like I said, on Microsoft and Azure security series. And today's episode is centered on Microsoft Priva, the privacy risk management platform. Yes. Now, what does that mean? Two things I want to say here. First, Microsoft Priva is supposed to be inside, you're supposed to find it within purview.microsoft.com. But if you have some issues here, that shows you have to look into your licensing. So sometimes it could be in a separate place, but at the end of the day, to link you back. But I just want to call out there that if you are not finding your Priva within your Microsoft Purview, it could be as a result of the licensing model that you are operating. So, but it should be there. So it's not, and there is also a dedicated portal for that. It can redirect you back to, it can redirect back you to Purview, but there's a dedicated portal for that. You can look out for that. So it's not inside Microsoft Defender portal. It can be on its own dedicated entry point, but ultimately you find it around Purview. Purview.microsoft, the security.microsoft. Okay, so the portal header says you can see something like maybe purview.microsoft.com, and you see /Priva, but just a call out there. So the link, you can find all those things there. So the second thing I want to call out is Priva and Purview are related, but they are distinct. Purview protects data across the organization. It classifies files, enforces DLP, manage compliance. Priva focuses specifically on personal data, the data that belongs to individuals who have legal right over it. GDPR, CCPA. Those regulations give individuals the right to know what data you hold on them, correct it, restrict its processing, or request deletion. Priva automates your response to those obligations. The relationship between the three pillars in your data protection stack look like this. You have Purview to classify and protect your data, Entra to govern access, and Priva to manage privacy. So now let's look at the portal ourselves. Let's look at the solution page. If you look at my portal here, you see this is, if I go to view all solutions, you can see what we got. So this is Priva page here, pretty much all we got. Okay, so the solution page confirms exactly how lean this portal is compared to what we have covered so far in this series. So if you look at, we have two things here. We have privacy, filter tab, and we have core. And if you look at core is just about settings. It's where you do settings of this particular tool. But privacy is what it does. So under privacy, when you see under privacy, you have two solutions: subject right request and privacy risk management. Now, if you look at subject right request, because I really want to quickly dismiss that. So subject right request scenarios are now supported through Microsoft Purview eDiscovery Premium. So that shows that this particular capability is moved into eDiscovery session of Purview. And if you want to know what more about Purview, you can watch the Purview episode of this video series. I explain everything, show you eDiscovery, what it does in investigation and building cases like that. So that is a good place for you to capture everything you need to know about that. So when we get to under settings, so if you look at under settings, that is two solutions. One settings hub. This is intentional. Priva is purpose built. It does not try to do everything. It focuses specifically on the privacy obligation your organization has towards individuals whose personal data you process. Related portals on the home page link out to Microsoft Purview and Microsoft Entra, confirming the expected data protection ecosystem these products form together. Now let's just work with it together. Let's just work with it together. So I've explained how request management has been moved to Purview, and if I go back to solutions here, you see my settings. So you can see everything you want to know about settings here. They are here. This account settings. You can see row, Entra row, a lot of stuff here. All these under settings. But if I move back and go back to solutions, then I have my subject right request and privacy risk management. So let's look at subject right request. Subject right request is your DSAR automation platform. DSAR means data subject access request. Is the legal mechanism by which individuals exercise their right under privacy regulations. The right to access their data, the right to correct it, the right to delete it, the right to restrict processing, the right to data portability. Now, this is where that is DSAR. Under GDPR, you have 30 days to respond to a request. Under CCPA, it is 45 days, with a possible 45-day extension under most regulations. Failure to respond in time or responding incompletely create regulatory liability. The fine are material. GDP fines can reach up to 4% of global annual turnover. The manual process for responding to a DSAR in a mid to large organization is significant undertaking. You have to find all personal data associated with the requesting individual across every system that holds it. Emails, team messages, SharePoint, documents, OneDrive files, CRM record, support ticket, HR system, marketing databases. Then you have to compile, review for third-party references, redate where necessary, and produce the response package. Manually, this process typically takes 2 to 3 weeks per request and require involvement from privacy, legal, and IT. Priva automates the discovery portion, the part that takes the longest when a request is submitted. So, the intake, the request is logged in Priva with requester's identity, the type of request, the regulatory framework it falls under, and the response deadline calculated automatically. You can configure intakes form on your website or internal portal that feed directly into Priva. That is intake. That is methodology for you to do intake, get the data in. So the other one is data discovery. Priva searches across your Microsoft 365 environment for all data associated with the requester's identity. Like I said, email, conversation, document, authored, everything, Teams, messages, OneDrive, everything across your 365 footprint. Then when that one is done, then the review. The discovered items are surfaced in review queue. Your privacy team review the items, confirming relevance, identify any content that should be redacted or withheld due to third-party personal data or legal privileges, and marks items for inclusion or exclusion from the response. So the next level is collaboration and approval. The request workflow routes through your configured approvers, legal reviews, privacy officer sign-off, and audit trail is maintained throughout. Response: the approved content is packaged and delivered to the requesters within the regulatory deadline. Now, if you look at the left navigation, request management. So if you look at here, okay. So if you look at request management, okay, we don't have that here. So okay, good. So if you look at request management here, you see this request management. So that you search, you review, you redate, and you export request. You can see it says it here. That is request. That is how the request workflow works. Even though it has been moved. So if you want to get it, has moved to eDiscovery in Purview. So you can look up that one. So then we move to the privacy risk management itself. Now this is the core product here. This is what this is all about. So let's move into that. Privacy risk management is the proactive side of Priva. Instead of responding to individual requests, it continuously monitors your Microsoft 365 environment for privacy risk and surfaces them before they become violation. The core scenario, it monitors data overexposure, personal data stored in locations that are accessible to more people than necessary, a SharePoint site containing HR records shared with the entire organization, a team channel where customer PI is being discussed with external guests who should not have access. Priva dictates this situation and surface them for remediation. So if what that means is that in privacy risk management here, what it does is that it continually monitors your environment and be able to identify the risk, risk point where individual data are being stored, but they are not legal, they are not appropriate, and begin to surface them, begin to alert you about them, so that before they become a problem or a risk or a liability, yes, you can resolve that. So that is data overexposure. Number two, what this tool does is data transfer Personal data moving in a way that creates compliance risk. Data containing personal information being sent to external recipients, file with PII being transferred across geographical boundaries where different privacy regulations apply, email containing sensitive personal data going to personal account. So these are the things that it look out for. Data minimization, personal data being retained beyond its necessary purposes. Priva can identify data that has passed its retention period or that is no longer being actively used and surface it for review and deletion. Now, for each risk category, you define policy threshold that determine when Priva generate an alert and what the alert severity is. Your privacy teams review the alerts, investigate the flag content, and take remediation action, updating permissions, moving data, contacting the data owner, or accepting the risk with documented justification. Over time, the risk dashboard gives you a trend view of your organization's privacy risk posture. Is overexposure increasing or decreasing? Which department generates the most privacy risk signals? Where should your next privacy awareness training be focused? So if you look at here, you see the policies. You can write policy. This is where you set your threshold, baselines, and stuff like that. You go to alert here. You can do that. Alert on maybe some threshold levels, classifiers, trainable classifiers. Now, the reason why I'm just showing us, because the essence of this video is a walkthrough, is to explain, is to bring the capability and the functions and the business problem they solve to you and give you the capability you can explore or you can use for your business problems if you have something similar, and then give you a visual and a mental model of what all this is all about. Then move forward. So it's not a deep dive, video, and if you see, that's why I'm not going, into a deep dive stuff. All I do is to walk you through it, give you those values, and you can make decisions from there and learn a ton from there as well. So the next thing I want to say is that more than just you might expect. So if you go to settings, if I go back to settings, maybe I go back to home and I go back to off solutions, and if I go back to settings here, good. Settings in Priva is where the configuration depth lives. Let me walk through what is here, because several items in this settings panel are more significant than it appears. So you see here, if you go to, you see roles and scope. So manage who can access what within Priva for sub-sessions. So that is that. Then we go to data connectors. You see data connector here? Okay. All connectors and my connector. This is significant because it tells you Priva can ingest data from sources beyond Microsoft 365. So for instance, if you look at my connector here, let me just come on. Let's just look into that. Okay, it's taking some time. So for instance, I can add connector here. You can see these are lot of connectors. I can even add Zoom, WhatsApp, Archiver, whatever, SQL, a lot of Salesforce, a lot of guys here. So if you go to all connectors, you see them, the whole lot of lists that you can connect to your Priva so that it can continue to monitor those endpoints and discover any personal information that is at risk of creating liability or regulatory liability. Sorry. So let me move on. So we go to then device onboarding. This one surprises most people. Priva has a device onboarding session with devices. Onboarding, offboarding, and device report. This extends Priva's reach to the device level, enabling endpoint-based privacy risk monitoring. Personal data being accessed, copied, or processed on devices can be monitored as part of the broader privacy risk picture. It complements the Microsoft 365 cloud-based monitoring with device-level signal. So that is device onboarding here. You can see. So yeah, my license doesn't cover that. So, but the capability you can see is there. If you want to check, you can check it out. Then we have optical character recognition. So optical character recognition is the capability that lets Priva scan images and scan document for personal data, a scanned passport, an image of a driver's license, a photograph from with our customer's data. Without OCR, this will be invisible to content scanning. But with OCR enabled, Priva can identify PII in an image-based content and apply the same risk monitoring and discovering capability to it. So you can see that shows that if you have some data that's somewhere maybe at the back of some document or some items or what have you that contain PII information, all these things can be scanned, and that goes directly into the capability of Priva, and that can help for you to reduce your regulatory liabilities. So what Priva is pointing you towards. So if you look at my my environment, you will see that there are a lot of sessions, that we said the trials and recommendation session on the Priva homepage is worth a moment, because it tells you what Microsoft consider the natural adjacent capability to Priva. So this is a place that if you look at the okay, good. So we are here now. If you look at the trials and recommendation page here, you will see that here you have insider risk management, you have adaptive protection, and you have Microsoft Purview suite. You have knowledge center. You have a lot here if I want to go further. But the point I'm trying to make is that Microsoft consider all these toolings. If you look at Purview, I've explained Purview in a full video that is like maybe 40 minutes. I explained Entra. I've explained risk. Okay, let me look at this. There's one. Okay, inside risk management is a whole sub-block within the Purview that I explained in my previous video. Now the point I'm trying to make here is the fact that Microsoft see all this tooling as an adjacent product, something that complements Priva, and it's very important that we see it that way, because it will help you to know how Priva fall within the ecosystem and how it integrates with other adjacent tooling, and be able to complement what they do, and maybe those ones also complement what Priva do. Okay, why does Priva exist? Let's close with some context on why Priva matters more now than when it's launched. Privacy regulation has accelerated globally. We all know about GDPR, has been enforced since 2018, and regulators are no longer lenient. CCPA is enforced in California, LGPD in Brazil, PIPL in China, Canada's PIPEDA is under reform. The Gulf states have enacted privacy framework. If your organization operates across multiple jurisdictions, which any cloud-native organization effectively does, you are subject to multiple overlapping privacy obligations simultaneously. So, and then there is AI. Every AI tools your employees uses process personal data. Every co-pilot interaction, why might involve customers' names, employees' record, financial data. Every AI agent acting on behalf of user is touching personal information. The traditional privacy risk parameter, email and file sharing, has expanded, dramatically to include AI interactions. Priva's privacy risk monitoring and the DSPM for AI capability we covered in the Purview episode are Microsoft answer to this. They are not fully integrated yet, but the direction is clear. Your privacy compliance program will need to account for AI data flow the same way it accounts for email and SharePoint data flow. That work starts with getting Priva configured now before the regulatory attention to AI data processing intensify further. So that is the angle I want to bring to you. If you look at my explanation on DSPM, that is data security posture management in Purview, one of the features within that particular space is the ability to monitor your interaction with AI agents. They are recorded, your prompt, your everything, so that this can be used to meet regulatory obligation. So now we are coming to the end of this. What are the three takeaways I want to just drop here? One, subject right request is the compliance capability that protects you from regulatory action. Missed DSAR deadlines are where GDPR fines actually land. Automate your response workflow before you get a backlog of requests you cannot manually handle. Two, privacy risk management is the proactive capability. Privacy risk management is the proactive capability. It finds privacy risk in your Microsoft 365 environment before regulators or complainants do. Start with data overexposure. Data is typically where the highest volume of unintentional violation is sitting. Then three, Priva is a separate license and separate portal, quote unquote, but not technically. It has a separate portal, but it can loop back to Purview. So budget is separate. It does not come with any Microsoft 365. Yeah, that is not clear to me, but what I've seen so far is that you need to handle it separately. Yeah. So that closes out the Microsoft Security Cloud side of this series. Now, 7 product families. Now we move to the Azure platform security side. The native Azure network and infrastructure defense. That is the different type of content and different portal environment. So I will catch you there. So that is what I'm saying. If you look at the series I'm making, that I call the Microsoft and Azure security series, I divided it into 2. The Microsoft agnostic toolings and processes. This is packaged in 7 videos, and this is like the last one, right? Then the other one is the Azure one, the Azure security, Azure security agnostic wise So that one will be coming. And once again, thank you for joining me, and see you on the other side.